Okay, good evening, beautiful people. You're welcome to this class, which is just an introductory class to hand stitching, hand stitching of leather goods. Now, to make it easy on us, I'm going to be making a simple leather bracelet. So that I can demonstrate to you the process involved. So I'm going to make it for myself, and this is my wrist. So I just firstly take a measurement of my wrist, about 20 cm, 20.5 cm will do, so I'll just go with 21 cm. So a 21 cm leather bracelet for myself. Let's get into it. Now this is the leather that I'm going to use. It's medium thickness, good quality leather. I just like the color. So I'm going to mark out 21 cm, just a rectangle of 21 cm. Okay, I'll probably mark out 26 to 27 cm just to give myself a margin of error. Mark this out. It's just a simple bracelet that will wrap around my wrist. So I'm just going to use the width of this leather, of this ruler. I'll just mark this in here, mark that in here. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this up, and then we will get into the part that involves stitching. Tools that we're going to use a knife. This is a knife I made by myself out of a hacksaw blade. We're going to be using needles. This is your regular big size needle that the ladies use for their weave on. I've just heated it up a bit, broken it, and then sharpened the points again. So I just didn't want it to be as long as it typically is. Let me see if I can find a regular one. So yes, so this is what the length is like typically, but I've broken it to this length and then resharpened the tip again just for the purpose of my leather work. Then we're going to be using a marking pen, silver pen, ruler, and of course a stitching pony. This is my stitching pony that I made by myself. It's nothing beyond just 2 blocks of wood that when I tighten with this screw and bolt, so that when I tighten it up, I can use it to clamp the work that I'm stitching and have good grips of it. There are professional stitching ponies that you can buy, and if you need directions on where to get them, we'll be happy to oblige you with them. But I made these myself, and they serve me really good. So you can also go ahead and make yours by yourself. It's quite crude, but it does the job. So these are my needles, and this is my loop of thread. It's waxed thread. It's pre-waxed thread. Has already been pre-waxed. It's available in the market. Just ask them for wax thread. I think they also call them loofah thread, but the real name for it is wax thread. Now, when you're about to stitch by hand, you have to take a measurement of what you want to stitch so that you don't waste your thread. So this is the length of what we are about to stitch. Now, stitching by hand, you require 3 times the length of what you want to stitch, but I typically use 4 so that I can have excess rather than less. So this is twice that length, this is 3 times the length, and this is 4 times that length. So I'll go ahead and cut the thread right here. Now, what's the length? Now, so you have your thread, so how do you put it in the needle? Firstly, you pick up your needle, and then you pass your thread through the eye of your needle. You pass your thread through the eye of your needle. Then you take the needle like so and punch it through the thread like so. Then you pass it the first time, then you fold it over again and pass it the second time, such that you have an S. So this is where the thread passed into the needle. This is where it went in the first time. This is where it went in the second time. Then you just pull it on the tail like that and lock it in. This way, this thread is never going to pull out of this needle while you're stitching. So you do it. If you are going to saddle stitch by hand, you need 2 needles. So we do the same thing on the other end of the thread. So we pass the thread through the eye of our needle. I'm not wearing my glasses, so it's a bit tricky here. Then we pass it, like we said before, do the same. So we have our snaky S. We have our S, we pull and lock. So that's it. So these needle and thread are set for saddle stitching. So we'll go back and fold this up right now, and then we'll begin to punch our stitching holes. Hold on. The key things you must note about stitching is that 1, you want your stitches to be uniform. You want it to be straight. You want your stitches falling on a straight line or on a straight curve. Then you want your stitches to be uniform in the sense of the stitch length between two stitches must be the same throughout the entire length of the stitches. And to achieve the first thing I meant about your stitches being on a straight line, you need to mark out your stitching line. So you mark out a line on which every single stitch is going to fall. So you can see that I'm marking it. But the point is you mark that stitching line. Then you punch your stitching holes. The tools, the professional tools with which you punch your stitching holes are called pricking irons, or some people call it the stitching punches. The real names for them, the technical name is pricking iron. So basically, you place your pricking iron on the line that you drew and hammer. But like I said, I believe that when you're starting leather work, you probably may not have these tools and equipment. So I'm not going to use this. I'm, however, going to use something that anyone can easily find in the market and use for his or herself. And that is this punch right here that is sell for 100 naira in Mushi. So I'm going to use the same. And in fact, if you check very well, you see that the distance I have between the stitching lengths on this pricking iron is almost the same with this one. So I'm going to use this to mark out my stitching holes and then punch out with this punch. So let's do that. So I'm using this pair of dividers that I have stuck cardboard in between it and held with masking tape to mark out the exact stitching holes that I'm going to be using. Then I'll go ahead and use that punch to punch out the stitching holes. So that's what I'm doing right now, just punch out each of them. I'm going to speed it up a bit. So that's it. I'm basically just punching out the holes. Now this is how you hold your punches while you punch. You place it there, punch. So let's speed up this thing again, and so that we can get to the fun part, which is actually stitching, which is actually the place that I've been longing to get to. So this is how you start Stardust stitching. I'm going to give a few spaces so that I can have a place to lock in the bracelet. So you put in your needles like so. You pull them together to make sure that they are equal in length on both sides. Then you put your front needle, that's your right hand needle, make a T with your left hand needle. You pull that front thread and then put your back needle from the same hole where your front needle entered. Then you make a loop with the thread around the back needle and pull tight. Don't pull it too tight, just pull it snug. Let's demonstrate that again. See that? Put the back needle from the same hole where the front needle entered, make a loop around it and pull. Basically, it's a rhythmical thing about it. Let's say front needle goes in, you make a T and pull. Back needle goes in, you make a loop and pull. So I guess it's front T pull, back loop pull. So back needle goes into the same hole, you make a loop and pull. So front T pull, back loop pull. Front needle goes in, you make a T, you pull. Back needle goes in, you make a loop and pull. An aircraft just flew over my house. Sorry for the interference. Front needle goes in, back needle goes in, you make a loop and pull. Front needle goes in, you make a T and pull. Back needle goes in, you make a loop and pull. I'm going to remove this from the stitching pony and demonstrate it plainly. So the front needle goes in, you pull it out, then you pull it backwards, and from that same hole where it came out, the back needle goes into the same hole, coming out on the other side, and you pull it. That's basically it. It's simple, but you have to practice it many times to get a hang of it without making mistakes. So we'll put this back in the stitching pony and finish off the stitching. So it's looking, everything is straight. So let's put this back on the stitching pony. So front needle goes in, you make a T and pull. Back needle goes into the same hole, you make a loop and pull. It got tangled with the leather somewhere there. I'm just going to, so you pull it out. Front needle goes in, you make a T and pull up. Back needle goes in, you make a loop and pull snug. Front needle goes in, you make a T and pull up. Back needle goes in, you make a loop and pull snug. Basically, that's it. We could make a poem out of it. Front T, pull, back loop, snug. So basically, that's all there is to saddle stitching. You could you have to keep on practicing it. So you have to be consistent in doing this so that your stitches don't get crooked. But basically, that's all there is to it. So let's demonstrate it from this angle again. Front goes in T, pull, back goes in, make a loop, pull snug. Front T, pull, back loop snug. Front T, pull, back loop snug. Front T, pull, back loop snug. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. I just wanted to share this with you. So practice it on your own. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to take them. And thanks to the organizers again for having me. Have a lovely evening, ladies and gentlemen. God bless you.